It's Craig Maynard again, and this is part 2 of our pick and place operation. Now, in order for the pick and place operation to work, we're going to have to do some rather delicate smart component creation here. First thing we have to do is create a line sensor. Basically, it's a little sensor that's going to be implanted in our gripper that's going to tell the gripper when it's touched an object. And that object is going to then become attached to the gripper itself. So the first thing we're going to have to do is create that line sensor. Best way to do that, I believe, is to start by opening up our gripper. So let's just go to our gripper and we'll do a mechanism jog. I'll just open up its little jaws there so we can get in there, and we're going to create a line sensor. We want it to go right between the jaws, right? Now, the line sensor is going to be a tool that we're going to create as a smart component. So we're going to move over to Smart Components, Simulation, Create Smart Components. There we go, Modeling, Create Smart Components. And we're going to add a component in. And the component we're going to choose is a sensor, and it's going to be a line sensor. Okay. Now the line sensor we're going to create with a radius. It doesn't have to be big, so we're going to just make it a 1 millimeter cylindrical radius. And we'll just say apply, and we can just close that up right now. So now if you look around, you should be able to find the line sensor. Now you can see it right here. So if we go to examine the line sensor, here it is way down at the bottom. Now we're going to have to reposition that line sensor in our gripper itself. So if we go to the line sensor and we'll say position, set position, and we're just going to place it, but probably the best way to place it would be to bring it right up close to the gripper. So we'll choose line sensor and we're going to position, and rather than set position, we'll just place it on a frame, and the frame we'll choose will be my gripper. So we're going to move up to my gripper and we'll say apply. And let's examine that line sensor so we can see where it is. And there's the line sensor. Now, I think in this case, the line sensor is probably going to be a little bit long. So we should probably shorten that thing up a little bit. So if we look at the properties of it, let's say it's 1 millimeter, and we're going to start, make it not 100. Let's make it 10 millimeters long, maybe a little longer than that. Let's make it 20 millimeters. That's better. All right, and we'll just rotate the gripper around now. So we're going to position, and we'll just rotate it, and we'll rotate it 90 degrees around the red axis. So that'll be the x-axis. So we'll just select that and apply it. Oh, wait a second. Bring it back again. We're setting it around the world now. We want to apply it around local. That's going to make it a little bit easier for us to work with. And now you can see the line sensor is, it's not between the grippers like I'd like to see it. Let's rotate it one more time. Okay, we're on the wrong axis. Oops. Let's rotate it around the y-axis. There we go. And that looks good. Close that up, and then we're just going to position it a little bit higher. In fact, I think probably just offset the position might be the best way to do that. So we're going to position it. We're going to offset the position, and we're going to offset it in the I want to offset it in the horizontal direction. There we go. Okay, let's see what we have now. It looks like it's pretty good. I'd like to move it back a little bit. Let's see. Just want it centered on there, and I'd like to move it up a little bit too. Let's just move it a little bit higher. Like that. That looks pretty good. So it's nicely centered on the tool center point. could probably do a little better than that, and it's just a little bit high. Okay, let's just apply that, and we'll close it. Now you can see the line sensor is now between the grippers. Now there's a couple things we want to do with this gripper. So the line sensor, this sensor right here, we don't want it to pick up the gripper jaws themselves. So when the gripper's jaws close, this sensor right here would go off. We don't want that. So let's just go to our gripper fingers right here, and we're going to look at the property, and we're going to look at it, and you should see it says detectable by sensors. And you want to make sure that check mark is off, because you don't want it detectable by sensors. And this one is also not detectable by sensors, so we're good. Okay, next thing we want to do with this sensor is we want to make sure it follows the gripper. We don't want it floating in space, have the gripper move away from it. So let's go back to our line sensor again, and I think we should attach it to, let's attach it to the gripper. Okay, attach it to my gripper. Do you want to update the position? Say yes. Oh, that was probably the wrong thing to do. Attach it to the sensor, but don't update the position. So line sensor, it went back to its default position, so we're going to attach it to the gripper again. The correct answer is no. Now let's just test to make sure that's all right. We're just going to jog our gripper around, and you can see the sensors following it beautifully. All right, that's beautiful. So now when the sensor moves down onto the robot, the clip itself, it should be ready to go. So let's just run this simulation a little bit. Okay, see how it actually approaches the gripper. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wait until it's sort of approaching it like that, and I'm going to just stop it. Finish up. And then I let it come down again. I just want to stop it as it's approaching. There we go. Just like that. That makes it easier for me to move it in and out. So if I choose the gripper now and move it in and out, you can see that the line sensor just starts to touch it when the gripper is over top of the part. Very important we set that up. Now I can see here, I'm just not really totally happy with that. I think the sensor is a little high at this point. See, my gripper would probably close like at this position, but the sensor is too high to actually sense the gripper, sense the part. So let's make a minor adjustment to bring it back in place again. So we're going to go to line sensor, and we're going to position that. We'll just offset that down on the blue axis a little bit, and I just want it to touch. I want it to touch the clip. Let's try that again. So the line sensor position, we'll offset that position. And again, I'll lower it down until it's touching the clip. That looks good. And this time I'll apply it and close. And now it looks good. Now it actually senses the part, which is what we want to do. All right. So this is very important you get this set up correctly, because the sensor is going to tell the system when it's actually connected. So that sets up our line sensor. We should be ready to go. Now we're going to go back to that smart component again. Let's not make a new smart component. Let's go back to our existing smart component. We'll just delete that new one. Delete that smart component. And we're going to rename this one Gripper Smart Component. Gripper SC. There we go. And we're going to go back in there. We're going to create a few more smart components in there. So we're going to edit this, and there we can see we've created the line sensor. Now we want to have a few more smart components put in there in order for this system to actually work. So the first thing we want to put in there is an attacher. The attacher is going to be a component that's going to allow us to attach the gripper onto the clip. So to add the attacher, we're going to go to Actions, and we choose an attacher. Okay. The parent for the attacher that you're going to use is going to be your gripper. And let's move down to find the gripper. There it is. My gripper. And the flange will be my gripper 1. That's fine. And we don't want to mount it, and we don't have to worry about the child at this particular point. Okay, so that's going to be what it's going to attach to. It's going to attach to the gripper. Okay. Now we have to add a detacher. Add component, and this is going to be a detacher. It's another action. So we're going to go to Action, we're going to detach it, and this is going to be the one that detaches the component itself. So we're going to do a detacher, and here we don't have to worry about any other signals for this. We just need to create a detacher. It's going to detach whatever's attached. Okay. We need to have some logic gates thrown in here. We have to have some logic in our smart component, and we'll talk about that logic in a second. But let's just put it on right now. So if we go to Signals, we want to put in a logic gate, and we want this logic gate to be a NOT gate. We want it to be an inverter, so we're going to have to do some inversions here. So add a logic gate NOT. We have to add in a set reset latch in there. So let's go here and logic element. There we go. Set reset latch has to be put in there. Set reset looks good. And now we have to have physics control. This is another very important element we need to put in. So go down here and choose physics control. And the physics control, if you look at it, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later too. It'll be a dynamic. We're going to be turning something into a dynamic part, but we'll play with physics control a bit later. We're going to put in another logic gate, another NOT gate. Add component, another NOT gate. Close that. And lastly, we need one more physics control. So we're going to add component and sensors. Oops, I'm sorry. Signals and properties. Another physics control. That's an others. Others physics control. And this one's going to be kinematics. So, but we'll worry about this later on as well. Okay, so we'll just close all that up. Now we have these sensors: line sensor, an attacher, a detacher, a logic gate, a NOT gate that is, a set reset, a physics control, a logic gate, and another physics control. Good. And now we have to start connecting all these together. So if we go to Design, you can see we have all of these parts all lined up, ready to go. Okay. Now you can make them smaller by rolling your thumb wheel. You can change whatever size you want. So for now, what I think we should do is just set it up so so the line sensor, which is the one we just created, is right there. We're going to take our attacher, put it down there, our detacher. So just kind of move parts around until they look like this, and I'll just reorganize them right away. Okay, I've paused and I've positioned my parts in my smart component approximately where you should have them. Now let's talk about what's going on here. First thing we need to have is a signal coming into this thing to tell it to attach the clip to your gripper. So to do that, we're going to go to Inputs and click on plus, and we're going to make a digital input, and we're going to call it gripper attach. And gripper attach, it's only one signal, signal value 0. Just leave it the way it is, and you say OK. And now the smart component has got a virtual input called gripper attach. And this is the signal that's going to tell it to attach the gripper. Now we're going to have gripper attach tied into the line sensor. So when you select gripper attach, it will turn on the line sensor, and the line sensor is going to be the one that's going to sense a part. Now the part it's going to sense is going to be the clip. So the sense part is going to be the clip that has broken the plane of that little sensor. Okay. Now when we sense the part, we're going to take that part that's going to show up here, and we're going to feed it into our physics control. Now this physics control here is very important because the clip at this point, when it's at the bottom of the slide, is a dynamic part. And I've learned that dynamic parts cannot be picked up. You can't attach a dynamic part. You have to attach a kinematic or any other physical part would work, but a dynamic part doesn't. And this control right here will change that dynamic part to a physical part. And to do that, we're going to take the output of the line sensor. So when the sensor goes active, this output's going to go high. Okay. We're going to take this output, we're going to invert it, and put it into the physics control. Okay. And that's going to change our part, our little clip, into a kinematic part, a real part. Now then, we're going to feed it into this element right here, and this is the attacher. Now the attacher, the parent, is my gripper. And the flange is, of course, one of the flanges on the my gripper. And the child, what it's going to attach to is going to be it's going to be the object that we just created, this kinematic clip. And so we're going to click this. We're going to put it in there. And so now the attacher's child is that clip. Okay. And we're going to execute this attacher at the same time we execute this physics control. So we're going to execute them both off the same signal. So I'm going to choose sensor out, and I'm going to draw another line, and I'm going to bring it over to the execute. Okay. So now you can see the attacher will execute when the line sensor senses it. Okay. So this, just to go through it again, when the gripper attach signal is high and the line sensor is turned on, it's going to take whatever part it's sensing, which is going to be the clip, and it's going to, through this path, it's going to turn it into a kinematic part that can be attached. Dynamic parts can't be, so it's going to be turned into a kinematic part and attached. Simultaneously, it's going to attach that part to my gripper, and that should be the end of it. Now we're going to make an output here. If we need to have it, we'll just call this output. We're going to call it attached. Okay, this is just a output to our smart component that tells us that the gripper has been attached. And this is a set reset flip-flop. So we're going to take the output of our attacher and we're going to set the set reset flip-flop and then tie this into attached. Okay, clean that up a little bit. And that's going to tell our system that it's attached. Now we're going to take this logic gate right here, and for the detach side, we're going to invert the attach function, and we're going to use it to detach it. So we're going to go through an inverter because we want to invert the attach function. If it's not attached, it's detached. And we're going to take this output, and we're going to execute the detacher, which is great. And once we execute the detacher, we're going to use that to reset. We're going to use that to reset the set reset latch. There we go. And now when this signal goes true, this attached will go low because it's not attached. And at the same time, we want to make the part a dynamic part again. So we're going to take the output here. We're going to use a second physics control right here to detach the part, and or to turn it back into a dynamic part. And it's going to say, well, what part? Well, the part that's in the detacher's jaws. So the object will be hopefully the purple clip. Okay, and that should be all the logic we need in our smart component to get the part to attach and to detach. Now you might want to pause the video and make sure everything's set up exactly as I have it right here. You can look at each of these inputs here. Make sure they're what you need them to be to get this to work. All right, now we have to set up an actual digital input to our controller that we can use for opening and closing the gripper. Now this is all simulation. Everything you see here, these smart components, all reside in the simulator, not in the real robot. So let's go to our controller, and we're going to go to the configuration editor here, and we're going to go to the I/O system, and we're going to add in a signal. So we're going to make a new signal. So right click on the word signal and say new signal, and I'm going to call it digital attach me. Okay, it's a digital attach me. That's what we're going to call it. A type of signal. It's going to be a digital output. Okay, it's going to be an output from your virtual robot to your gripper, right? It's going to be an input to that smart component, an output from your robot. And the access level should be all, and that should be all that we need to have for the part itself. So now we have a digital signal. Now it's going to tell you that the change will not take place until the controller is restarted, and that's okay. Now we have to make a couple other signals too. We want to have a digital signal to generate a purple clip and a digital signal to generate a yellow clip. So let's add those digital signals in as well. So we're going to go to the I/O system again. We go to signal, right click, new signal, and I'm going to say create purple. Okay, and it's going to be a digital output. And access level would be all. And we know about that. And the next new signal we're going to create is a create yellow, because we want our program to be able to generate yellow and purple clips. So this is why we have to create a digital output for that. And access level all, and we're going to say OK. Now it's reminding us, of course, it won't start until the controller is restarted. So well, let's do that. Let's go restart, and we'll just do a warm start. It's probably all we need to do. It's a little bit faster. And it's restarting right now. Oh, we're almost done. And it's finished. Good. So now if I close this up here, and if you want to go to your station itself and look at your I/Os, the I/O simulator, you can see if we go here and look at our digital outputs, we've got to create purple, we've got to create yellow, we've got a gripper open. Okay, and this purple me, just ignore that. That was built at a previous I was experimenting earlier on. So create yellow, create purple, and gripper open are there under the system. Okay, now the next step is we have to do some wiring here, some virtual wiring. This smart component, as I said before, this smart component is sitting inside the simulator itself. It's not actually part of the robot. It's the gripper, which is external to the robot. And we have to tie the robot into the gripper. So to do that, we need to create a virtual wiring. So to do that, let's go to our controller here, and there it is. Go to simulation and go into station logic. And in station logic, if you go over to design, you see we have the system, which is our robot. That's the robot itself. And then we have the smart controller for the gripper, It's got attached gripper here. We got a clip generator for purple and a clip generator for yellow. So, but they're not wired up yet. So we want to get those things wired up. To do that, you go to your I/O system right here, and you click on the little down arrow, and you should see all of those digital signals you created. Now there's my gripper open right there, so we don't need that one, but we do need the attach me. So digital attach me. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to run this digital attach me over to the gripper attach. Okay. Now don't worry about this. This is something that I did earlier. You don't need to have that on yours. And then we're going to have a create purple, and we're going to have a create yellow as well. Okay, so create purple is going to go to my purple clip smart component over here, and my create yellow is going to go to my yellow clip smart component. So here's my digital signals going into my 3 smart components, the one that generates the purple clip, the one that generates the yellow clip, and the one that generates causes the gripper to work. Great. So this should be enough to get these guys running. Okay. Now we have to go and actually create our program. So if we go to Rapid, and we look in here, I don't know if it's been generated yet. Let's have a look. Path 10. Here we go. There's the program we created last time, and you notice we reset the gripper, and we set the gripper right here. And that's fine. That was done in the previous lab. Now we want to actually attach the component on when we close the gripper, when we reset the gripper. So this is where we're going to add in our set, and we have to bring up that signal we had before. And I believe I call the part Detach Me, digital attach me. So that's going to attach the gripper onto our end effector. And then further on down here, we can see we've moved across, and now we're going to our place position. So that's where we want to reset Detach Me, semicolon, and that should release the gripper. Now a little bit further down here, let's create a new part, a new purple puck. So we're going to set, I think I called it create purple, semicolon. So right here, it's going to create a new purple part that's going to slide down. In fact, I might even want to take that. I'll just Control X that one, and I'm going to put it up here even before we move back. We'll create the purple part right after we delete the gripper. Okay. Very good. So now we've created the program. Let's see how it looks. So if we go to our gripper, and we'll just back off here a little bit. That should be backed off enough. We'll just zoom in and have a look at it. I'm going to move the robot to its home position here. So robots, jump home. There we go. And hopefully we're ready to go. So let's run the simulation and see how it works. All right. Now, before we go ahead and demonstrate this, there was a couple of mistakes that I made in my logic. We'll have to go fix up again. Bound to happen. I'm trying to do this in one take. So if we go back to our gripper smart components, and we look at it right here, my detacher, I haven't told it what to detach. I just said to detach a child. Well, it doesn't know what the child is, so we're going to have to tell it, and we tell it by attaching the child, which is the purple clip, and bring that to my detacher. So I have a red line going from the purple clip to the detacher, and that should detach the child. So I'd like to make that correction on the smart component. So again, right click on this and edit component, make that change. we have a small change we have to make to our program too. Now if we go to our Rapid and we look at the actual program, I did a set create purple here, a set create purple. Well, that only produces a pulse that only does it once. Now what I need to do is I need to pulse D0, not set it. Otherwise I'll have to reset it. I have to set it and reset it. So I'm going to use a pulse D0 create purple instead, and that will produce a single pulse of a few milliseconds wide to create a new purple part. And that should be good. Okay, now the next thing I think we should do, just to make sure everything's going to work nicely, is when you go to your purple cue and you look at your source of your purple cue, make sure the transient is on now. We want to have all the clips disappear when we finish, so turn the transient back on again and you apply that. Close that. So once the transient's back on, let's see how things work. Okay, now we'll just run our simulation. The first run is a dry run, and the part's generated. A pick is happening, it's dumped, and a pick is happening, and it's dumped. Now, and of course, your case, the part will be placed onto the proper spots on the board, and you might also repeat this for the yellow clips. So this is how we pull it all together. And since it's transient now, if I stop the simulation, all the new parts should go away. So that's how you make a rather sophisticated smart component and program your robot to do the pick and place operation. So this is the last exercise in the semester. We want to see if we can get this working, so you can demonstrate it to me, and then try it on the real robot. See if you can move this code over to the real robot and do the same thing there. Thanks for watching. Good luck.